part of the presentation that I'm very challenged by. And I'm going to just, bring it down a little bit because I appreciate everybody who's bought my book. Absolutely grateful for your support. You're supporting me, and I appreciate that. And it means a lot to me that you bought my book. And I have to be upfront and honest because that's my role here. So, but no one's caught it so far. Something is emitted from the new edition of the book, and it's going to stay that way. But I don't mean to hide things from you. So I actually omitted the 18th contact event, and no one seems to have noticed. It kind of just I number all the contact events, and literally the number 18 is missing from the book. And I don't. I'm actually going to give it to you here, so you can have it for yourself. And if I post this video, it will it'll be in the link in the description. The link, sorry, will be in the description. So it's available on my website, unlinked, so you can only get it through these means if you want it. But when you read it, you'll probably understand why I didn't post it. And I actually couldn't post it. I actually, in the first edition of the book, all information is there, and I couldn't sell the book. I actually couldn't do it. Preston Denning mentioned my book, and I panicked that people were buying it. I panicked from people buying my book. And it's because I'm convinced all this is pretty real. So let me talk about this. What I'm described here, you can read it for yourself. But basically, I'm shown that that there's kind of this idea that, with humans kind of getting out of control, there's going to be these great waves. And they're basically ocean waves is what they are. And they kind of, they're obviously really large because they go into the land. And then I'm in the craft, and I think it's happening in the moment. At that time in 1998, is that when 1999, and I think it's happening at that very moment. And I get on a computer, and they're basically saying we need to save people. So we're in a craft that goes over a community or city or town, and it's reading the consciousness of the individuals. It's very high tech, obviously, this computer, and so we're there to save people. And then eventually we're told this is all just an experiment, but we're explained that it's here in the 18th contact event. Maybe I can highlight the line. Thank you for partaking in our test. We are testing your capacity to handle the hard truth because your world is under siege from within, and hard decisions will have to be made. We are testing your ability to make those hard decisions. In the 24th contact event, the elder, so kind of from that information, there's kind of a picture that gets formed over my contact events. And this is where I gain more information about those great waves. So in the 24th contact event, the elder took me to a console. She touched a button, and a hologram of the Earth appeared. There were 3 circles around it, implying the equator and possibly the 2 tropics. There was a line through the poles showing the axis, and a light halo around the entire hologram that seemed to imply the magnetic field. It appeared to be a consciousness hologram that was imparting information about the internal movement of the planet. I could tell from the axis going through the Earth on the hologram that something on the inside would tilt over very fast. The internals of the planet are going to budge, creating a large impact on the gravity of the planet in that area. I gathered that this was a magnetic pole adjustment, but large enough to cause a change on the surface, that the momentum of the internal change will create some kind of gravity warp briefly on the surface. I asked, when does this occur? She said, soon, we're holding it off. Why? To get humans ready, to get us ready. It's what's going to cause the destruction. So this was a lead up from the Great Waves contact event. So it's going to cause the Great Waves, is what she says. And when it does, this is when we're going to take over. That is when we put the new seeds onto the planet. That's what you've been a part of, is making our new home. At a depth, the planet produces a charge that feeds the life living around it. And that charge will be altered and changed, producing a new frequency on your planet. And that's when we step in to take charge of the new frequency. It will be a dimensional shift on your planet, and your species will have the proper stock of genes to make use of it. And we will do it together, humans and our species. Get this? Do you understand? So she's really trying to make sure I got that this was important. I was like, yes, okay. So wait, back up. Okay. All of us contactees, we all have cataclysms, visions. The aliens give us cataclysms. It is out of control, actually, how much it is all about cataclysms. It's about apocalypses. You can almost call them apocalypse specialists. They really know, it's actually a form of motivation. I know that personally because they used it as a form of motivation. But all the contactees I know, there's a lot of variation of these apocalypse. I know a contactee who told me that we actually, in one case, we were all doing a round circle, and we all talked about all the different apocalypses we have, like like they're collector cards. And one friend said hers was that the gas of the volcanoes would change all the carbon, would change the planet to carbon dioxide. Another person was a meteor, and I have a meteor as well too. And so you get all these versions, lava opening up, and and fissures. You get wars, nuclear wars, also part of all the apocalypse. And but the one thing people don't have that I do, which is why I really am bugged by this, and I couldn't put it in the book, is I'm the only one I know who has cooperation for their apocalyptic stuff. And so let me tell you a bit about that. So in that 24th contact event, it's a pole shift. And I see in the 18th contact event, the tidal waves come from the Russia. Well, this is the direction. I mean, these are just the memories of the contact events. I had no scientific information about how to, parallel this up. And lo and behold, the actual direction of the magnetic pole is going in the very direction with which I saw great waves coming from the Arctic Ocean, basically. So that's a really weird one. During the Second World War, Walter Rizzi served as an aircraft mechanic and as an interpreter for the Italian and German air forces. In July 1968, his car broke down in the Dolomite Mountains in Italy. While walking home or walking for help, he ran into a UFO. He interacted with a being who communicated to him in telepathy. After the interaction, Walter Rizzi suffered from radiation poison, suffering from lesions on his skin, and his hair fell out. But it was the message that the alien gave that was the most interesting. I asked him why they didn't give us the benefit of their technical knowledge and stay with us for a while on our planet, and how long it would take to acquire their technical proficiency. He replied that, in the first place, it was impossible for them to interfere with the evolution of any other planet, that spending any time in our solar system would age them prematurely, and finally, that we would never reach their standard of evolution because the crust of our planet is too different. And in the near future, there would be a shifting of the poles. This would result in a vast opening in the Earth's crust, bringing about the cataclysm destruction of 80% of the population, and leaving only a narrow strip of land still inhabitable for the few survivors. He went on to say that our planet suffered from some kind of imbalance, and that at some point in the future, there would be an incredible disaster. A crack would appear in the crust of the Earth and in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and that would be the end. On July 1st, Ross Coulthart on Theories of Everything with Kurt Jaimangal.
Okay, to wrap up, you've been with us for quite some time. There's been talk from Leslie Kane and John Ramirez that something's occurring at the late 2020s, 2027, 2029. I don't know. I just know that these years have been set out like some significant event is going to happen. What do you know about that?
Look, there are people who have suggested to me that there are apocalyptic events like catastrophic. One of the ones I heard at one stage was the reversal of the poles, and I don't know why that would cause any calamitous geological changes, but it was suggested to me that there might be a calamitous movement of the Earth's crust. I was referred to the so-called Adam and Eve story that's apparently in part in a redacted form in the CIA library. But 2027 was mentioned at one time. I've heard other dates in the 30s. I don't know.
And so Linda Moulton Howe on her show, actually, let me tell you this part. So she mentioned, so I got the memories out. And again, right, I was not reading and doing tons and tons of, research on this stuff. I was just trying to understand how my memories, what had happened to me affected me. And so I was really just all about getting the memories out. And I was very disturbed at the 18th contact event when it happened. It's in fact it's the only hypnotic regression with which I couldn't go through the hypnotic regression without breaking it. It's actually really wild. It was really intense. And only was very disturbed to hear Linda Moulton Howe explain that she heard officially also about Great Waves from a government person. And I emailed her actually very quickly, and I was like, this matches my alien contact event. This is what I was told. And she gave me a description of what she knew from the person. And she told me, and some of it was mentioned in her in that episode. A former Area 51 physicist working underground at S4 in the 1970s met Linda in 2014 at a conference. She was told by him a black hole would burp out in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy that could cause a jerk in our solar system, and subsequent 1,000-foot high tsunami hitting North America's west coast. The physicist knew the information was received from extraterrestrial sources. So this physicist was trying to figure out how to keep humanity alive. He was tasked with how would you keep humanity alive from 1,000-foot wave tsunami, and that information he knew came from extraterrestrials. So I have corroboration for my stuff. The flood event would happen somewhere between 2020 and 2026. Again, some of the erroneous information isn't always the same, so I don't really know, right? We just have to, yeah. He stressed that 2026 would be the end of a 6-year period of tremendous stress and change. So that hasn't happened, or hasn't started anyway. So yeah, who knows what to hear? Well, who knows what to think here? Tom DeLong said in his tweet, like most of us who go down the rabbit hole, I was too ignorant. People in government working with real UFO problems are patriots, morally sound, and doing the best they can. And I actually believe that. I do believe that. Some made errors working at it, working in an ambiguous lack of oversight. But what would we each do if we were burdened with this? And he talked about it being a burden, and that's the that is what this is. Like me having the 18th contact event is a burden. The fact that I have to tell you is a burden. I don't want to do that. And here's the problem. Actually, another internet troll here. Truth should not be a burden. It should be shared because it belongs to all of us. So, how about I address myself to this guy, Veritas Venator, and I've had people like this, right? At least I can see a lot of the internet dialogue talks like this, like we deserve to know the truth. And there's a couple problems with the public knowing the truth. And one of them is that you assume everyone else can handle it. And I'm talking about a reality that there are many mentally unstable people on the planet. And a lot of people are determined to hold on to the reality. And they want to keep the reality. They don't want to be told something is different about the reality. And it's a really arrogant and ignorant and selfish comment to make, that everyone should just be having all this information. And I don't believe that that's actually true. I believe some of this information is too much. And I believe actually when you go all the way down the rabbit hole, it's too much. And it becomes a burden. It does become a burden. And so, yeah. And so actually Tom says here, I agree. But like any other emergency, leadership needs to figure out what the hell is going on before they run out and say something that is wrong, or that they don't have a plan to deal with it. That's my take. But I do agree, and others agree now is the time as well too. And here's the thing I just want to point out, that when I had the first edition of the book and people were buying it, I never got a single person ever in the life email me and say, thank you for telling me about the future. Or thank you, just it went straight from either you don't believe or I believe, and now we go right to panic. And that's basically all that happens. There's no in between. There's no absolute in between. And so the person who even has this information, if they do have information like this in the government, what would you expect them to do? Because all that happens is panic. It doesn't create any sense of grounding or happiness or truth inside. And it's possibly because human death is actually part of the picture. And I think actually the aliens are that detached from the whole birth and death life cycle that this is not a problem for them. But these are big parts of the picture. And that's just the bottom line. Like I couldn't do it because I couldn't give out this information because people just panicked. They went right from learning about this and then going to panic. They didn't say anything in between to make me feel good about it. And I don't expect them to, but I can't do it. I can't be the person who makes people panic. It's not my job. So yeah, that's just a bit of a personal thing there about this, but this is real stuff, right? let's there's something else here. There's more. Uh, so this is one of those internet things. Actually, well, it's not the internet. It was a caller into he called into Coast to Coast, and his message is very weird. Actually, it has corroboration now, so it's really strange stuff. Let's just listen.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens, Art, they're extra dimensional beings.
Okay, sorry, just had to point this out. That's what they're saying now, right? Like, that's just really interesting. That's a corroboration, because it's the very, that's what they're pushing now. I mentioned this, I showed the videos last time, the last presentation, that's how they're talking about this. And for him to say that is just all very wild.
That an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, I'm sorry, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharge.
I started getting...
Yeah, I won't go for the whole thing here. It's actually available online. You can find it yourself. And it's very interesting because Coast to Coast lost their satellite transmission. It's not, anyway, how that happened is also mysterious to them. And they talk about it here in the, and I have my goosebumps are raging on me right now. So chilling stuff. And, but, Great Waves would definitely wipe out all the population centers along the ocean, right? And so that's the whole thing is going on here. So I won't play all that now.
The second part of this that disturbs me, though, is there seems to be a rush to now try to talk about it. So after years and years and years, decades and decades and decades, where this has all been kind of pushed aside and nobody dared speak the word alien or extraterrestrial, let alone non-human intelligence, now they're all starting to do it. And they're doing it fast. And they're talking about hearings that we'll be talking about in a moment that are coming up fast. And they're going to have some shocking things in them. And the only thing I can think of is there's got to be a reason why the powers that be in Washington, D.C. are starting to say, we need to actually say the words out loud, and we need to get language in right now to get this taken care of. And I'm concerned, Ross, that at the end of the day, the only thing that would make a politician do that and act in that sort of enhanced way where they're in a hurry is that there's some bad news involved in this. And I don't know exactly what it is. And I know that you don't know exactly what it is. People are talking. It's hard to sort out what the sources mean or don't mean. But, as I said, Chuck Schumer was and has been a cautious man in many cases. And I don't think he'd be talking like this and pushing this if he didn't think there was a fire behind his back pushing him to do so.
Look, I've got a pretty clear idea of what the government knows. and I
Yes,
can
you do.
understand why they're moving to expedite. Yes, there is a constraint of time. The government knows that it really does have to tell the truth to the public after years of treating the subject with derision and ridicule.
But we are rapidly moving to a place where it's not about proving they're real, it's about understanding them and trying to analyze what it's going to mean for the future that we're all about to live in. And I have to say, candidly, in this last month, honestly, folks, I've had more than a few moments where I literally just have to sit down in my quiet house and start to contemplate what's really happening here, and what does it mean to me? What does it mean to you? What about my family? You know, I have children. What's their world going to look like? Is this world going to be a better one or a worse one? And frankly, is there anything that any of us can do to impact that?
So the whole point about these, whatever's happening here, the planetary destruction, or even us as humans moving into whatever this is. And I'm pointing out from that 18th contact event. I don't know if anyone has read it or taking their time with that. So a point that was said here in that 18th contact event, everyone filed out of the room. The elder and I went back to the map on the wall, and I asked, "What happens to my home?" She said, "We will unmake and remake the land. We're making the place better for people like you, for people who are kind, spiritual, and peaceful. The work we're doing now will help us to make Earth a better place." And again, like, you can't even argue this. This is the craziest aspect of it all, is that it's like, how do you argue this? How do you argue that it could be that humans need to be some of these things? We need to be more kinder, more spiritual, more peaceful, and our tendencies are destructive, and or at least, again, not your tendencies, right? This isn't about an issue. I don't believe anyone should be taking collective guilt for this stuff. I think people should just be preparing for it, and there's no way out of it. That's how I see this, and it's awful, and is a burden at the same time as being potentially very magical and very wonderful. So, and I think part of this comes down to that the aliens themselves are very detached from the birth and death life cycle, and then are, but here's a crazy twist. I want to point out something that I don't doubt is part of this future that is going to be part of our lives. Imagine a scenario here where, yeah, there's something damaging that happens. A planet-wide destruction occurs. It does occur. And you're saved, you're taken, something happens, you're pulled out of this. But maybe you're someone that you love, your friends, someone, family doesn't. They're not. And that's horrible and it's awful. And then all of a sudden you're on the craft, and now you can have a technological device that you can talk to their soul. And all of a sudden, like, what does that do for the brain? Right? These aren't fantasies. Like, this stuff could possibly be very real. That, they don't want you to be in pain. That's what saying kind, spiritual, and peaceful is that humans are the ones who are the self-inflicted painful entities. We create our world, and then we kind of struggle and have a hard time living in it. And I'm telling you that their world is not that. And imagine a crazy scenario where someone very close to you or someone you knew was on the planet and suffered from, a mass casualty event from these destructions, and then, hey, no problem, you're able to talk to them still on a craft and see their spirit, and they're able to communicate with you, and that's how advanced their technology is. Because they don't want you to be in pain, and I'm aware of that too. So this isn't about making humans be in pain. This is actually about transferring them over to this new world while you're still not traumatized. That's what I believe, because I think that the traumatizing part of the human is the disturbing part for them. So I hope that, anyway, I would be grateful. We're going to end this really soon. And maybe in the Q&A, we can talk about, what you think about it means for even me, a person, to have this information. And yeah, it's all very kind of shocking, and I don't really know what to do with it, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but I'm very willing to today. But I don't know what the future means for people, and I'm not really interested in making people panic. So yeah, that's how I'm going to end the presentation. Maybe I should maybe make it lighter. I don't know. I don't know how everyone's faring so far. But thank you. My name is Jeff Selver, The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. And I think I'm just going to bear the brunt of this. Let's open it up for Q&A, and maybe we can start the Q&A by a real point that what would you do if you had this information and it was matching, corroborated? It was kind of being, you're seeing a picture because you were given to you by aliens, and that alien contact you proved to yourself, and now now you're finding corroboration for it, and now you have knowledge that planetary destruction is possibly a part of the picture. What do you do? What do you do, and how you handle that information? So thank you everyone for sticking around. Thank you so much. So okay, let's open up the Q&A.
There, let me unmute. I was just processing something a little bit differently with what you were just talking about at the end of your presentation. And my mom, who never had any paranormal experiences her whole life, in her early 80s, saw a craft in Victoria, BC.
Oh, wow.
And her next experience after that, a couple of months later, was while she was watching television in the evening, the television went staticky. And even in her early 80s, she heard her grandmother's voice say to her that the words were, "We have shown you the craft so that you know when you pass, we will be there to pick you up."
Wow.
That's very powerful.
That's
and
epic.
so
Yeah.
I always just felt, kind of, okay, they'll be there for my mom, to pick her up, and it's maybe part of the family legacy. But if there was a huge catastrophe, maybe all of the people that are seeing craft, people that are experiencers around the world, maybe there is a message to them that even in that catastrophe, at that point of death, I live on the coast too, that there will be that pickup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just that thought just expanded from what you were talking about. And so I wanted to share that.
Very beautiful, Carol. So let me just reiterate. You're saying upon her death, they'll pick her up. So like her spirit basically will be taken in as a craft. And, there's a couple things that really are interestingly matching with me with that. So in my afterlife vision, I see my higher self is on a craft. I still am just like, oh, that must have been them, giving me symbolism or something. But it's really, it's very real for me. So I didn't really understand it too much. But there is something to be said that the possibility that, these entities are in the afterlife and their crafts maintain a vibration with which spirits can actually be on it. And I do believe something like what you're saying, that, listen, the reason they did this with my book, here you have all these big picture stuff, we are God, visioning is real. And yeah, there might be human death, maybe part of the picture. And what could make that picture a little bit easier to handle, except that it actually isn't death, and there might be something with which the world that they operate in is very linked to that world. And yeah, you're really hitting on that, and it's very powerful.
I think the fingerprint is like our frequency or our vibration.
Yeah,
I think that's the connecting piece to it.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
And I won't share it here, but I mean, one of my early clairaudient experiences was having mechanical voices in conversation on 2 different days in the nursery of my child, my baby.
Wow. Wow.
And it's just eerie. But anyway, I just wanted to share that other.
That was powerful, Carol. I really appreciate that one. That's epic. Very epic. Yeah. And there's some crossover going on here. We don't have the whole picture, but this is the other twist too. So the aliens wanted the information out if you take that Jim Sparks stuff, but it seems to be pretty bang on, right? They wanted they wanted some kind of information out. So, okay, there's a definitely planet event tied to it. Hybrids are definitely tied to it. Afterlife is tied to it. So then they seem to have wanted us to be aware of a planet event while simultaneously knowing we don't die. We actually continue to live on. And so you're kind of hinting at the greater possibilities of what that could mean, which is we still are kind of left in questions, but that could mean literally that, yeah, no, the souls don't die and don't worry about it. You'll be on crafts or something. Yeah, it's very
soul
fascinating.
retrieval.
Soul retrieval, if you will. Yeah.
Reincarnation, an odd look at reincarnation.
Yeah. Yeah. Very powerful, Carol. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.